How the Rich Really Get Richer, the complete guide to private equity and wealth building. Going from broke to making six figures is tough. It demands discipline, hard work, sacrifice, perfect timing, and years of grinding. But going from well-off to extremely rich? That usually takes something else. A few key meetings with the right people who know how money really works. Welcome to the world of private equity, the engine behind generational wealth and the secret system the ultra-rich use to multiply their fortunes. What do Legoland, the Hilton Hotel, and Ancestry.com have in common? They're all owned by Blackstone, the biggest private equity firm on the planet. Private equity is one of the most powerful forces in finance. Yet most people don't fully understand how it operates. When companies want to grow fast, they need money. There are two main ways to get it. Sell shares to the public. That means you and me buying stock. Sell pieces of the company to private investors. That's private equity. Here's the catch. Private equity firms don't just buy companies to hold them forever and collect profits. They buy with the goal of improving the company and selling it later for a big profit. The 4 steps of private equity. Private equity firms follow a clear playbook. Raise money from outside investors and pool it into a special fund. Buy companies using that fund. Improve the company's profitability. This can mean bringing in new leadership, cutting costs, expanding locations, or boosting marketing and branding. Sometimes this leads to huge success. Sometimes it backfires. Sell the company after 5 to 10 years, either by taking it public again, IPO, selling to another company, or selling to another private equity firm, hopefully for a much higher price than they paid. If all goes well, the firm and its investors make massive profits. Quick reminder, if you want to keep up with the latest insights on wealth-building strategies, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell to get notified about our newest videos. The history of private equity, from tycoons to trillions. Private equity has been shaping industries for over a century. Back in the early 1900s, business giants like J.P. Morgan, the Rockefellers, and the Vanderbilts were already buying companies using investor money. But they didn't flip these companies for quick profits. Instead, they merged multiple companies in the same industry to build massive empires, like building up all the properties of one color in Monopoly before adding houses and hotels. After World War II, the economy boomed, and returning veterans fueled new business growth. In 1946, Harvard professor George Doy created the American Research and Development Corporation, ARDC, the first real venture capital firm. ARDC's biggest bet was $70,000 on Digital Equipment Corporation, DEC, which went public in 1968 and turned that investment into $355 million, proving private investors could back innovative companies before they hit it big. By the 1980s, private equity had evolved from betting on startups to buying existing companies and making them profitable. The 1990s and 2000s saw pension funds, university endowments, and governments pouring money into private equity. After the 2008 financial crisis, tighter regulations pushed firms to focus on operational improvements and technology, not just cost-cutting. Today, firms like Blackstone, Carlyle, and Apollo manage trillions of dollars, influencing real estate, credit markets, infrastructure, and more. Leveraged buyouts, LBOs, the power move of private equity. One of the most famous private equity strategies is the leveraged buyout, LBO. The first major LBO was J.P. Morgan's 1901 acquisition of Carnegie Steel. An LBO works like this. A private equity firm buys a company using money borrowed from other investors and debt secured by the assets of the company they're buying. This means the loan is backed by the company's future earnings and assets, reducing risk for the lenders. Imagine you're a banker, and someone wants to borrow billions to buy a company. Instead of borrowing against their own assets, they use the company's assets and earnings as collateral. If the investment fails, you recoup your losses from those assets. If it succeeds, the returns can be enormous. but it's risky, so interest rates are high. A real success story. Blackstone and Hilton Hotels. In 2007, Blackstone bought Hilton Hotels for $26 billion. One of their first moves was appointing a new CEO. They shifted Hilton's focus from owning real estate to brand management and franchising. Injecting $800 million into the company improved its financial health, allowing bigger loans to renovate, market, and expand. Hilton went public again in 2013, with stock prices rising steadily. By 2018, Blackstone had sold its stake, making about $14 billion in profit over 11 years. A textbook LBO success, but not all deals are winners. The Toys R Us collapse. Contrast that with Toys R Us. In 2005, private equity firms bought the company for $6.6 billion using an LBO, placing the debt on the company's balance sheet. Unlike Hilton, no cash injections were made. Between 2005 and 2017, the firms collected over $470 million in fees and interest, leaving Toys R Us unable to invest in store improvements or e-commerce. Burdened by debt, the company filed for bankruptcy in 2017, closing over 800 stores and costing thousands of jobs. This case highlights why private equity firms face criticism. Their aggressive debt strategies sometimes hurt the companies and employees they acquire. Don't miss out on our future breakdowns of wealth-building strategies. Be sure to subscribe now and turn on notifications so you never miss a video packed with insider knowledge. Growth equity, the sensible cousin of venture capital. Not all private equity deals are LBOs. Another strategy is growth equity, where firms invest in established, fast-growing companies that need capital to scale. Unlike LBOs, growth equity deals use little or no debt. Firms usually buy minority stakes rather than full control. This approach helped companies like TikTok expand globally. For instance, General Atlantic and KKR invested in ByteDance, TikTok's parent company, providing the funds and resources needed to reach billions worldwide. Summary: what you need to know about private equity and wealth. Private equity firms raise pooled funds to buy companies, improve them, and sell for profit. Leveraged buyouts use borrowed money secured by the acquired company's assets. High risk, high reward. Successful LBOs can generate billions in profit, but failures can lead to bankruptcies and job losses. Growth equity invests in growing companies with less risk and usually no debt. Private equity has evolved over a century, now managing trillions and shaping industries globally. Thanks for watching. If you found this video insightful, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon to get the latest videos on how the rich build and protect wealth. Your journey to financial understanding starts here. How the ultra-rich play the game. Venture capital, distressed investing, private equity profits, and hedge funds explained. If you think getting rich is just about working hard or saving money, think again. The ultra-wealthy use complex strategies to grow and protect their wealth, strategies that most people don't fully understand. Today, we're diving deep into some of the most powerful investment tactics: venture capital, distressed investing, private equity profit structures, and hedge funds. These aren't just buzzwords. They're the engines behind billion-dollar empires. Venture capital. Betting big on the future. Venture capital, VC, is the high-risk, high-reward side of investing. VC firms pour money into small, unproven startups, hoping they become the next billion-dollar company. Think of it as betting on raw potential. If the startup succeeds, investors can make massive returns. If it fails, they lose everything. Some of the biggest names in Silicon Valley are VC firms. For example, Sequoia Capital invested early in Airbnb, Google, and WhatsApp. Andreessen Horowitz backed Skype, Facebook, and Twitter. But not all bets pay off. Sequoia lost $214 million when cryptocurrency exchange FTX collapsed in 2023. And remember Theranos? Venture capitalists poured $700 million into this biotech startup before discovering the technology was fake, losing it all. Want to unlock more secrets about how the rich invest? Make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon for the latest videos on wealth-building strategies. Distressed investing. Buying low, turning around, or breaking down. Distressed investing is one of the most controversial private equity strategies. It involves buying struggling or bankrupt companies at a discount and trying to turn them around for profit. Sometimes it works. For instance, Up Capital bought Game UK, restructured it, and increased its market value by over 12 times within 2 years. But other times, aggressive cost-cutting and asset sales leave companies worse off. One early example is Victor Posner's hostile takeover of Sharon Steel in 1969. Despite restructuring efforts, Sharon Steel filed for bankruptcy in 1987. Fast forward to today. In 2024 alone, 110 private equity-backed companies filed for bankruptcy. A reminder that distressed investing carries big risks. How private equity firms make massive money. Multiple income streams. So how do private equity firms get so rich? It's all about deal structure and multiple income streams from a single investment. They only put in about 10% of their own money. The rest comes from outside investors. They charge investors a management fee, usually 2% of assets under management. They also earn a performance fee, typically 20% of profits, even if some deals struggle. They don't wait until selling a company to make money. Fees alone can generate millions, or even billions. When it's time to exit, firms don't just sell to the highest bidder. They time sales to maximize profit, whether through IPOs, selling to competitors, or flipping to other private equity firms. Because the acquired company pays back the loan and interest is tax deductible, the firm's return on investment can be 5x or even 10x their original cash input. This explains how giants like Blackstone, KKR, and Apollo manage trillions of dollars and own assets across hotels, media, and tech, basically owning huge chunks of the economy. If this is blowing your mind, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. We bring you the best breakdowns on how wealth really works. Hedge funds, flipping entire industries. What if you want to flip bigger things? Entire industries, currencies, or even global events? That's where hedge funds come in. The first hedge fund was created in the 1950s by Alfred Winslow Jones, a sociologist who wanted to protect investments by balancing bets on companies expected to succeed and fail, a strategy called hedging. Today, hedge funds have evolved into exclusive, lightly regulated investment vehicles for the ultra-wealthy. They operate mostly in private, avoiding the strict rules that protect everyday investors. Why are hedge funds so exclusive? Because of laws created after the 1929 stock market crash and the Great Depression, regular investors get transparency and protection. But hedge funds raise money only from accredited investors, people with over $1 million in net worth, excluding their home, or making over $200,000 a year. This legal loophole means hedge funds don't have to follow the same rules as public markets. They pool millions from wealthy individuals and let fund managers take big risks behind closed doors. The wild ride of hedge fund investing. Imagine handing your money to a hedge fund manager and saying, "Trust me, I'll make you rich." Then, for a year or two, they operate with little oversight, no daily updates, and no public reporting. It's a let-it-cook situation, risky, secretive, and potentially very rewarding. In summary, the secret world of the ultra-wealthy venture capital bets big on startups with huge wins and losses. Distressed investing buys troubled companies, sometimes turning them around, sometimes breaking them further. Private equity generates multiple income streams from fees, loans, and strategic exits. creating 5x to 10x returns. Hedge funds operate behind closed doors, flipping entire industries with money from the ultra-rich. Thanks for sticking with us. If you want to keep learning how the rich build and grow their fortunes, subscribe now and hit the notification bell. Don't miss out on the latest videos breaking down the world of wealth and finance. Why the super rich keep betting on hedge funds, and what you need to know. If you think public stock markets are the best place to invest, think again. The ultra-wealthy keep pouring billions into hedge funds, private investment vehicles shrouded in secrecy, high fees, and big risks. So why do the richest people still choose hedge funds over transparent, regulated markets? Let's dive deep into the world of hedge funds to uncover the truth behind their allure, their controversial fee structures, and why they remain a magnet for the financial elite. Hedge funds, more than just another investment. Unlike mutual funds or ETFs, hedge funds aren't about buying and holding Apple stock or betting on the next iPhone launch. Hedge funds operate in markets and assets most people don't even know exist or can't access. They can bet on everything from interest rates in Japan, the collapse of a Chinese real estate fund, to the spread between oil and natural gas futures in Texas. They invest in private loans, distressed companies, rare artwork, and niche real estate deals. If it has a price and is traded, hedge funds are probably involved. These aren't your Robin Hood-style investments. Hedge funds dive into complex, high-risk strategies that public funds simply can't touch. Heavy leverage, exotic derivatives, short-selling entire economies. Strategies that would get a mutual fund manager fired are just routine for hedge funds. Picture this: fishing versus submarine hunting. Investing in public markets is like fishing off a crowded dock. The water is clear, everyone sees your bait, and you can jump in and out anytime. It's safe, slow, and transparent. But catching something rare? Almost impossible. Now imagine hedge funds as a submarine, a small, highly trained team with sonar, secret maps, and advanced gear diving deep into uncharted waters. They stay submerged for weeks, making strategic moves invisible to others. If something valuable is down there, they find it and grab it before anyone on the dock even knows it exists. The secretive nature of hedge funds. Hedge funds don't have to disclose what they own, how much they've bought, or when they sell. Why? Protecting strategies. Hedge funds spend millions developing research and models. If their moves were public, competitors would copy their strategies for free. Market impact. If the market knows a hedge fund is buying a stock, the price spikes before the fund finishes buying, hurting returns. Selling news can trigger panic selling. Liquidity. Many hedge funds invest in assets that can't be sold quickly. Lockup periods, often 6 months to a year or more, prevent investors from pulling money out too soon, allowing strategies time to work. The controversial 2 and 20 fee structure. One of the most criticized aspects of hedge funds is their fee model, known as 2 and 20. 2% management fee, charged on total assets under management regardless of performance. 20% performance fee, charged on profits earned. Sounds simple, but the numbers add up fast. If a hedge fund manages $1 billion, that 2% management fee alone nets the manager $20 million a year, even if the fund loses money. Then, if the fund earns $100 million in profits, the manager pockets 20% of that, $20 million more. This means managers get paid handsomely, whether the fund wins or loses, while investors shoulder most of the risk. There's a high watermark, but it's not perfect. The high watermark rule says managers can't take the 20% performance fee again until the fund recovers previous losses. So if a fund drops in value 1 year, no performance fee is taken the next year until gains cover that loss. Sounds fair, but the 2% management fee still rolls in no matter what, and over time, that fee alone creates massive wealth for hedge fund managers. Curious about how hedge funds really work and want more insider insights? Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to get notified about our latest videos. Why do the super rich keep investing in hedge funds? If hedge funds are so secretive, risky, and expensive, why do the ultra-wealthy keep investing billions there? It's not just about chasing returns, it's about freedom, exclusivity, and access. 1. Access to unique strategies and markets. Hedge funds offer strategies unavailable to regular investors. High-frequency trading algorithms, global macroeconomic bets, interest rates, political outcomes, regulatory changes, complex derivatives, and private market deals. These opportunities don't exist on public exchanges or in your average brokerage account. 2. Time and convenience. Managing a complex portfolio full-time isn't practical for most wealthy individuals. Hedge funds let them offload this responsibility, paying not just for returns but for mental bandwidth and peace of mind. Think of hedge funds like hiring a private chef. Sure, you could cook yourself, but a Michelin star chef with rare ingredients delivers a whole different experience. 3. Networking and social capital. Hedge funds operate like exclusive private clubs. Being a limited partner in a top-tier hedge fund is a status symbol, a badge that says, "I'm part of the inner circle." This brings access to insider deal flow, strategic relationships, and social positioning you won't find on any public platform. It's about being where the big deals happen before the rest of the world hears about them. 4. Portfolio diversification. Wealthy investors often have real estate, stocks, private equity, and even art. Hedge funds offer exposure to strategies that move independently of public markets, helping spread risk and reduce overall portfolio volatility. 5. The cultural mystique. Hedge funds still carry an aura of mystery and power. Portrayed in movies and headlines as the financial elite's secret weapon, they symbolize the cutting edge of wealth creation. Even if most hedge funds don't hit home runs, the hope of being in the one that does keeps investors coming back. 6. Legacy, power, and strategic control. Hedge funds offer more than money. They provide strategic control over capital, aligning with tax strategies, estate planning, geopolitical bets, and philanthropy. Being part of a hedge fund means joining an ecosystem where wealth is created, protected, and moved behind closed doors. Ready to dive deeper into the world of finance and wealth? Hit that subscribe button now and turn on notifications. Don't miss our upcoming videos breaking down complex financial topics into easy-to-understand insights. Final thoughts. Hedge funds started as a clever way to reduce risk, balancing bets on winners and losers. Today, they've evolved into powerful, secretive financial clubs where the ultra-rich play a different game, with fewer rules, higher risks, and potentially bigger rewards. For most people, public markets are safe, regulated, and transparent by design, and that's a good thing. But for the financial elite, hedge funds offer access to a world few ever see, where money moves fast, secrets abound, and fortunes are made or lost overnight. Next time you hear about a hedge fund making billions or crashing spectacularly, you'll know the story behind the curtain. The hidden power of trust funds and offshore banking. How the ultra-rich protect and grow their wealth across generations. You've probably heard the phrase, trust fund baby. The image of a silver spoon kid with a future already secured, maybe flaunting Lamborghinis on Instagram. But that's actually the wrong idea about trust funds. The real purpose of trust funds is far more powerful. They're about controlling and protecting wealth over generations. Why trust funds are the ultimate wealth protection tool. Making millions? Easy. Keeping it for your children, grandchildren, and beyond? That's the real challenge. Trust funds are legal structures that say, this money doesn't move unless I say so, even if I'm no longer around. They delay access to money until a certain age, control how it's spent, education, property, business, and enforce those rules through a trustee, an impartial third party who isn't emotionally involved. In short, trust funds are about discipline at scale. The ultra-rich don't just hand over fortunes hoping heirs won't blow it all. They build systems to make sure their legacy lasts. The curse of wealth. Dissipation. Shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations. Studies show that 70% of wealthy families lose their fortune by the 2nd generation and 90% by the 3rd. This is called the shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations. Curse. 1st generation. Hard-working, self-made wealth creators. 2nd generation. Born into wealth, but often don't understand how it was built. 3rd generation. Inherit the money but lack skills or discipline, often losing it all. Even in Scotland, they say, the father buys, the son builds, the grandchild sells, and his son begs. That's why over 90% of people worth over $30 million have at least one trust fund in place. It's the first move to protect wealth once it reaches serious levels. How trust funds work. The basics create the rule book. The trust agreement is a legal document detailing what assets go into the trust, who the beneficiaries are, under what conditions they receive money, and who enforces the rules. The trustee. This document is legally binding. Appoint the trustee. Think of the trustee as a human firewall, a family member, lawyer, bank, or trust company who ensures the trust's rules are followed without emotional bias. Fund the trust. Transfer ownership of assets, real estate, cash, stocks, businesses, artwork, crypto, even intellectual property like voice or image rights, into the trust. Types of trusts and their uses. Revocable trust. You can change or cancel it while alive. Great for privacy and avoiding probate, but still part of your taxable estate. Irrevocable trust. Once funded, you can't take assets back. Assets are removed from your estate for tax purposes, a key tool to reduce estate taxes. Grantor Retained Annuity Trust, GRAT. You put assets in, receive fixed annual payments for several years, and the remaining growth passes tax-free to heirs. Popular among billionaires expecting big returns. Spendthrift Trust. Limits payouts to protect heirs prone to reckless spending. Charitable remainder. Trust. You get income during your lifetime, then the remainder goes to charity. A smart tax and legacy strategy. Generation skipping trust. Skips your children entirely, passing wealth directly to grandchildren. Customizing trusts, conditions and controls. Trusts can include almost any legal condition to control money use. For example, my child gets $50,000 a year, but only after age 30. Distribute $100,000 only if the beneficiary graduates college. Cut off access if they marry without a prenuptial agreement. Match whatever they earn in their career dollar for dollar. This level of control protects the fortune from impulsive decisions and preserves it for future generations. Why trust funds are also tax shields. Once assets are transferred into a trust, they're no longer legally yours. This means the government can't tax them as part of your estate. The Walton family, owners of Walmart and among the richest families worldwide, hold over $600 billion in assets spread across generations through complex trust structures and private companies. Their goal? Preserve wealth and minimize taxes. The estate tax in the U.S. hits estates over $13.6 million at a 40% rate, nearly half the fortune gone without proper planning. Trusts can freeze asset values for tax purposes. For example, if your company is worth $1 million now but expected to grow to $10 million, placing it in a trust means you're taxed on only the current $1 million, and heirs get the growth tax-free. The power of greats and charitable trusts. With a GRAT, You gift future asset growth to heirs while still receiving income yourself. If investments perform well, heirs get millions tax-free, and the IRS collects very little. Many billionaires create charitable foundations through charitable remainder trusts, receiving income during their lifetime, an upfront tax deduction, and leaving a lasting legacy. Trust funds are complex but essential. Trusts are the legal backbone that allows wealth to survive and thrive across generations. Without them, even the richest can face chaos, like Prince, who died without a trust or will, triggering years of legal battles and wasted money. Want to understand more about how the ultra-rich protect and grow their fortunes? Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to get notified about our latest videos breaking down wealth strategies. Offshore banking. How the wealthy use global secrets to protect and multiply wealth. Now let's take it a step further. What if your money isn't just in a trust, but also hidden offshore, in companies that exist only on paper, registered in faraway places with names like the Cayman Islands, Switzerland, or the British Virgin Islands? The hidden world of offshore banking. Take the Ugland House, a modest 5-story building in the Cayman Islands. In 2020, around 20,000 companies had registered offices there. U.S. politicians have called it the biggest tax scam in the world. Offshore banking is a normal part of financial planning for the world's richest celebrities, politicians, and CEOs. These jurisdictions offer privacy. Banking secrecy laws keep client identities hidden. Flexibility. Structures to move money quickly and efficiently. Tax efficiency. Low or zero tax rates on income and capital gains. The scale of offshore wealth. Experts estimate over $10 trillion is held in offshore financial centers worldwide, more than the GDP of Japan. About $800 billion alone is in Swiss banks, with hundreds of billions more in Hong Kong, Singapore, Luxembourg, and Caribbean nations. According to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, offshore wealth accounts for 8 to 10% of the world's total household financial wealth. Why do the ultra-rich use offshore accounts? To legally minimize taxes and protect assets from high domestic tax rates, to maintain privacy and shield wealth from public scrutiny, to facilitate international business and investments, to avoid political or economic instability in their home countries. Offshore companies and shell corporations. Many offshore companies exist only on paper, known as shell corporations. They hold assets, manage investments, or own property without revealing the ultimate beneficial owner. This structure allows the wealthy to move money across borders without heavy taxation, protect assets from lawsuits or political risk, keep ownership private. But it's not all illegal. While offshore banking is often portrayed negatively, it's important to note that using offshore accounts is legal when properly disclosed and compliant with tax laws. The problem arises with illegal tax evasion or money laundering, which authorities worldwide are increasingly cracking down on. Offshore banking is a key piece of the wealth puzzle. For the ultra-rich, offshore banking combined with trust funds creates a powerful system for preserving, growing, and protecting wealth, often invisible to the public eye but crucial in global finance. Interested in learning more about the secret strategies of the wealthy? Hit that subscribe button now and turn on notifications to never miss our deep dives into money, power, and legacy. Offshore banking and how the ultra-rich legally protect and access their wealth. When you hear offshore banking, what comes to mind? Secret accounts on tropical islands? Tax evasion scandals? While the reality is complex, offshore banking is a legal and widely used financial strategy that the world's wealthiest people leverage every day to protect, grow, and access their fortunes. Let's break down how offshore banking works, why it's so powerful, and how it differs from your everyday banking experience. What is offshore banking? Offshore banking means placing your money or assets in a country with financial rules that are more favorable to you than your home country. These countries, known as offshore financial centers, offer a compelling mix of low or zero taxes. Some have no income tax, no capital gains tax, or no corporate tax at all. Privacy laws. Your name doesn't appear on public records and often not even on internal banking documents. Loose reporting requirements. You don't have to explain every dollar the way you would in the US or UK. If you're wealthy enough, these countries want you as a client. The key difference: the rich don't own anything. Their companies do. This is crucial to understand. Unlike ordinary salaried employees whose income is taxed and reported every step of the way, the ultra-rich structure their wealth so that they technically own nothing personally. Instead, their companies or trusts own the assets. For example, if you're a salaried worker in the US, your paycheck is reported to the IRS, taxes are withheld, and every bank transfer over $10,000 is flagged under laws like the Bank Secrecy Act, BSA, and FATCA. You must report foreign bank accounts over $10,000 and declare foreign-held assets annually. Miss a form, and you risk fines or audits. For the wealthy using offshore banking, the system is fundamentally different. Their income flows through layers of companies and trusts, legally minimizing their tax exposure. A tale of two millionaires, James versus Mike. Let's illustrate the difference with two fictional millionaires. James lives in New York and earns $1 million a year as a salaried CEO. His employer reports his income to the IRS, withholds taxes, and he loses nearly half of his income to federal, state, and local taxes before he even sees it. Mike earns $1 million, but through a trust registered in the Cayman Islands, paid via a foreign holding company in Luxembourg, which owns licensing rights to software he developed. When money comes in, it flows through these entities, and Mike receives payments as dividends or distributions routed through countries with favorable tax treaties or no income taxes at all. Technically, Mike owns nothing directly. He controls when and how he gets paid. Tax avoidance versus tax evasion. People often confuse tax avoidance with tax evasion. Tax evasion is illegal, like getting paid in cash and not reporting it. Tax avoidance is legal, using the rules to reduce what you owe, like writing off business expenses or claiming depreciation. When the smartest lawyers and bankers dedicate their careers to tax avoidance, you get offshore banking, a system designed to follow the letter of the law while sidestepping most of the tax bill. Want to uncover more insider strategies the ultra-wealthy use to protect their fortunes? Make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss our latest videos. Apple's famous offshore tax strategy, a masterclass in legal tax avoidance. One of the most famous examples of offshore tax avoidance is Apple's strategy in the early 2000s, which caught the attention of the European Union. Apple set up subsidiaries in Ireland that technically owned the rights to sell Apple products outside the US. This allowed them to funnel billions in profits from iPhones, iPads, and Macs sold across Europe, Asia, and Africa into low-tax entities, avoiding standard corporate tax rates almost entirely. Thanks to a loophole in Irish law, Apple's subsidiaries were stateless entities, not taxed in Ireland nor anywhere else, for a full decade, 2003 to 2013. During that time, Apple routed more than $120 billion through this setup. At one point, their effective tax rate dropped to just 0.005%. That's $50 in tax for every $1 million in profit. Instead of paying $40 billion under US law, Apple paid just $600 million in taxes. How did this work? Apple created two special companies in Ireland, paper shells with no real offices or employees, that owned the rights to sell Apple products everywhere except the US. Normally, companies pay taxes where they are incorporated or where they operate. But Apple found a loophole. These companies were incorporated in Ireland, so not taxed by the US. But they were managed from the US, so not taxed by Ireland. This created a gray area where no country claimed the right to tax their profits. Eventually, the European Union intervened, and after a decade-long battle, Apple was ordered in 2024 to pay $14 billion in back taxes. Other giants and offshore wealth statistics. Apple isn't alone. Amazon, Google, Meta, Nike, Starbucks, and Microsoft have all used complex offshore structures to reduce tax bills. According to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, over 40% of multinational corporate profits are shifted to low or no-tax jurisdictions. The Panama Papers revealed over 140 public officials and billionaires using offshore shell companies. The Pandora Papers linked over 35 world leaders, including presidents and royalty, to hidden wealth in trusts, companies, and private foundations, most perfectly legal. The rich take their names off everything. When most people get rich, they put their names on everything. The ultra-rich do the opposite. That mansion? Owned by a company. The yacht? Held by a holding firm registered in Bermuda. Even the bank accounts funding their lifestyle? Controlled by trusts or foundations, not individuals. If you don't own it personally, it can't be taxed, sued, or seized. Curious how this all works behind the scenes? Don't forget to subscribe now for more deep dives into the secret financial systems of the wealthy. How offshore systems and trusts work. A simplified breakdown. Create a shell company. In the Cayman Islands, British Virgin Islands, or another tax haven, set up a company that exists only on paper. No offices, no employees, no products. Let the company own the assets. Instead of your name on the deed to your mansion, the company owns it. Your Swiss bank account? Owned by the company, not you. Yacht, art collection, intellectual property, all owned by the company. Add a trust. The company itself is owned by a trust based in a different country. The trust isn't in your name either. You're just the beneficiary. You can live in the house, sail the yacht, use the jet, but nothing is tied to you directly. This is how you end up with a $150 million super yacht owned by a company in the British Virgin Islands, held by a trust in Jersey, managed by a nominee director in Panama. How the ultra-rich access cash without triggering taxes. If your name isn't attached to your money, how do you spend it? When you transfer money from an offshore account to your personal account, it becomes taxable. So instead, the wealthy borrow against their offshore assets. For example, Apple borrowed against its offshore profits to fund U.S. operations rather than repatriate profits and pay taxes. If you have billions offshore, you can use those assets as collateral and take out loans at ultra-low interest rates. This way, you get access to cash without triggering a taxable event. They borrow again and again. A strategy called buy, borrow, die. How ultra-wealthy families manage their fortunes. The rise of family offices. Money management sounds simple when you're just starting out. Save, invest a bit, and watch your nest egg grow. But what happens when you're not just rich, but ultra-rich? When your net worth hits hundreds of millions or even billions, managing your wealth becomes a complex, full-time operation requiring an entire team. Welcome to the world of family offices, the private institutions that run fortunes like corporations. From worrying about money to worrying about too much money. Your relationship with money typically goes through 3 stages: worrying because you don't have enough, relaxing because you have more than enough, worrying again because you have too much money, and managing it becomes a problem. Once you cross the $100 million mark, you're no longer just an individual with wealth. You're more like an institution. Money is no longer just cash. It's capital that needs to be organized, tracked, and protected. Spreadsheets turn into staff, and that staff is called a family office. If you're enjoying this deep dive into wealth secrets, subscribe to our channel and never miss our latest videos. Managing $1 million versus managing $1 billion. Anyone with basic financial knowledge can manage $1 million. Put some into a diversified stock fund for growth. Allocate some to bonds for steady income. Invest in real estate for stability. Keep cash for emergencies. You can do this all from your phone and comfortably live off the returns. But what if you have $1 billion? At that level, you're earning millions in interest each month. You might own multiple businesses, properties across different countries, art collections, complex equity stakes, and even have legacy obligations. Your charity work alone might require lawyers and accountants. Wealth behaves less like a bank account and more like a corporation. What is a family office? Instead of hiring lawyers, bankers, tax strategists, and advisors one by one, ultra-wealthy families bring them all in-house. You hire your own team on payroll whose full-time job is to manage your wealth. If you think of yourself as Batman, the family office is Alfred, your trusted behind-the-scenes team handling everything. The explosion of family offices. The rise of tech billionaires and crypto millionaires has created a new wave of first-generation wealth, demanding customized financial infrastructure. Traditional banks weren't built for a 29-year-old suddenly worth $400 million. As of 2023, there are over 12,000 family offices worldwide, with more than 7,000 in the U.S. alone. This number has doubled in the last decade. The average family office manages around $1.2 billion in assets. Some, like the Walton or Bezos families, oversee tens of billions. Collectively, family offices control between $6 trillion and $10 trillion in global wealth. The generational wealth transfer, $84 trillion on the move. Over the next 20 years, more than $84 trillion will transfer from baby boomers to Gen X and millennials. Managing this massive shift requires more than private banks and wealth managers. It demands full teams tailored to individual families. This surge has sparked a family office arms race, with ultra-wealthy individuals competing to hire the best talent, from lawyers and investment analysts to PR experts, building private teams that operate like elite hedge funds. Why family offices matter. Complexity beyond compare. At 100 million and beyond, your financial life becomes exponentially complex. Managing over 30 legal entities across multiple countries. Overseeing 5+ asset classes including stocks, private equity, real estate, art, and crypto. Planning inheritance for 3+ generations. Handling personal assets like yachts, jets, and luxury properties. Coordinating staff including security, assistants, and pilots. Imagine having to pay taxes in 3 countries, track ROI across dozens of investments, plan inheritance strategies for multiple heirs without conflict, and shield assets from lawsuits or divorces. This is a full-time job for many people. Family office staffing, from 14 to 159 professionals. A typical family office employs about 14 full-time staff, lawyers, accountants, investment managers, just to manage a millionaire's wealth. Compare that to Jeff Bezos' family office, Bezos Expeditions, which reportedly employs around 159 professionals, including philanthropic strategists and venture scouts. That's more advisors than most kings had running their courts, all dedicated to managing one man's fortune. The Bezos divorce, a masterclass in family office management. In 2019, Jeff Bezos' divorce was the most expensive in modern history. His ex-wife, Mackenzie Scott, walked away with 25% of their Amazon shares, worth about $36 billion at the time. What went unnoticed was how smooth and frictionless the financial transition was. No drawn-out court battles, no messy disclosures, no massive tax events. That's because the family office absorbed the divorce, coordinating asset transfers, updating trust structures, managing risk, and preserving Bezos' long-term financial blueprint. His control over Amazon remained stable, and his wealth continued to compound. This behind-the-scenes damage control, including reputation management, was executed flawlessly by a family office with a crisis protocol. If you want more insider stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Now, when should you consider starting a family office? Say you just sold your tech company and walked away with $500 million after taxes. Congratulations, you're rich. But now, the real work begins. With more than $1 million in investable assets, you're officially a high net worth individual, gaining access to private banking and relationship managers. Crossing $30 million upgrades you to ultra-high net worth status, unlocking elite financial tools like hedge funds and private equity. But once you hit $100 million, you enter a whole new league. Some banks offer white-glove teams, but you might ask, why am I still using the bank's people when I could hire my own? Setting up your family office. The basics. Form a limited liability company, LLC, named after something meaningful but hard to Google, a favorite mountain or childhood street. Base it in a tax-friendly, privacy-respecting jurisdiction like Delaware, Singapore, Switzerland, or Dubai. Build your team. First hire a CFO-level wealth manager who's managed similar fortunes. They track every dollar, reduce risk, and consolidate your assets. Cash, stocks, real estate, startups, art, crypto, yachts, everything. Then bring in a specialized lawyer who knows generational wealth and trust laws inside out. They draft trust documents, create holding entities, and firewall assets. Next, hire a tax specialist, ideally a former IRS insider or Big Four accountant, who designs a tax strategy minimizing your burden without triggering audits. After securing your money, hire a chief investment officer to oversee investments in private equity, hedge funds, real estate, and venture capital. Finally, add logistics support, family office managers, philanthropy directors, lifestyle concierges, or even life coaches and art curators. Managing wealth at this scale is a full-time job. Even with all these professionals, the challenge remains. Your assets are owned by companies or trusts, not you personally. So how do you access actual cash for daily life? The ultra-wealthy's ultimate strategy: buy, borrow, die. When you think about how billionaires spend their money, it's easy to imagine lavish lifestyles funded by endless cash. But the truth is far more complex and fascinating. If your name isn't directly attached to your money, like in offshore accounts or trusts, how do you actually access and spend your wealth without triggering massive taxes? The answer lies in a powerful, legally savvy strategy known as buy, borrow, die. Borrowing against wealth. The secret to tax-free cash flow. Here's the catch. The moment you move money from an offshore account to your personal bank account in your home country, it becomes taxable. So instead of transferring money and paying hefty taxes, ultra-wealthy individuals borrow against their assets. Take Apple as a famous example. Rather than repatriate billions of dollars in offshore profits and pay high U.S. taxes, Apple borrowed against those offshore assets to fund its U.S. operations. This allowed them to access cash without triggering a taxable event. If you have billions sitting offshore, you can use those assets as collateral to take out loans, often at ultra-low interest rates. This way, you get access to liquidity without selling assets or paying taxes. Then you borrow again and again and again until you die. This is the essence of the buy, borrow, die strategy, a cycle that preserves wealth and minimizes tax liability over generations. If you want to unlock more secrets of how billionaires legally protect and grow their wealth, subscribe to our channel now and hit the bell icon so you never miss a video. Breaking down the buy, borrow, die strategy. The buy, borrow, die strategy is a sophisticated tax minimization technique used by the ultra-wealthy to preserve and transfer wealth legally across generations. Here's how it works, step by step. Step 1. Buy appreciating assets. Billionaires invest in assets that grow in value over time, such as real estate, stocks, private equity, fine art, other collectibles or businesses. These assets appreciate, increasing the owner's net worth without generating taxable income unless sold. Step 2. Borrow against those assets. Instead of selling assets when they need cash, ultra-wealthy individuals borrow money using those assets as collateral. Why borrow? Borrowing does not trigger a taxable event because it's considered debt, not income. Loans can be taken at very low interest rates, especially for high net worth individuals with excellent credit and collateral. This provides liquidity without reducing the principal investment or triggering capital gains taxes. Step 3. Die and pass on the assets. When the asset owner passes away, the assets receive a step-up in basis. This means the asset's value is reset to its current market value at the time of death. Capital gains taxes on any appreciation during the owner's lifetime are wiped out. Heirs can then sell the assets tax-free or continue to borrow against them, perpetuating the cycle. This step-up basis is a critical benefit that allows wealth to transfer across generations without the erosion of capital gains taxes. The cycle continues. Rinse and repeat. As long as the assets keep appreciating and loans are managed properly, this cycle can continue indefinitely. The ultra-wealthy effectively live off borrowed money while their net worth grows tax-free. This explains why many billionaires hold vast amounts of wealth on paper, but live relatively modest lifestyles. Their money is tied up in appreciating assets and loans, not liquid cash. Curious to learn more about the financial tactics that keep billionaires rich? Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for exclusive insights. Wrapping it up, the complex financial ecosystem of the ultra-wealthy. To sum up, the wealthiest individuals have constructed a highly sophisticated system of legal entities, trusts, offshore companies, financial strategies, all designed to minimize taxes, maximize growth, and protect wealth across generations. From private equity and hedge funds to family offices and offshore banking, these tools go beyond just making money. They're about control, power, and legacy. Why understanding this matters to you. Even if you're not a billionaire, understanding these strategies offers valuable lessons about how money really works behind the scenes. It can inspire smarter financial decisions and long-term planning. After all, knowledge is power, and now you have a rare glimpse into the financial world of the richest people on Earth. If you found this eye-opening, please subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss our deep dives into wealth, finance, and the secret strategies of the ultra-rich.